Have you ever wondered what the worst paying jobs on earth are? It's a question that may seem straightforward, but the answer is a complex web of stories, landscapes, and socio-economic factors that weave together to form the tapestry of our world's labor market. Today, we will embark on a journey, taking a closer look at these often overlooked professions. From the bustling sweatshops in urban centers to the isolated mines where children labor, from the vast agricultural fields to the less glamorous sanitation work, we will explore these worlds through individual case studies. Each story is a testament to human resilience in the face of adversity and a reminder of the disparities that exist in our global workforce. Our purpose is not to paint a picture of despair, but to shed light on these realities, to foster understanding, and to prompt discussions on how we might improve conditions for these underappreciated workers. Let's dive into the world of these underappreciated workers and their stories. Our first stop takes us to the sweatshops of Southeast Asia. Imagine a place where the air is thick with the smell of industrial glue and the constant hum of sewing machines. A place where the heat is stifling and daylight is a rare luxury. This is the reality for countless workers in the sweatshops of Southeast Asia. These workers, often women and sometimes even children, toil away for up to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Their hands move swiftly, stitching together the latest fashion trends that will be shipped off to markets in the West. They're the hidden faces behind the tags on your clothes, the silent partners in the creation of your wardrobe. Now let's talk about pay. A sweatshop worker in Southeast Asia might earn as little as $2 a day. That's less than the price of a cup of coffee in many parts of the world. Despite the long hours and grueling conditions, these workers often struggle to make ends meet. They work not for a life of comfort or luxury, but simply to survive. The working conditions in these sweatshops are often dangerous. Lack of ventilation, exposure to harmful chemicals, and poor safety standards are common. Workers often suffer from respiratory issues, skin diseases, and other work-related health problems. And yet they continue to work, driven by the fear of unemployment and the relentless cycle of poverty. But what about their personal experiences, their hopes and dreams? Let's consider the story of one worker. Let's call her Mina. Mina is a mother of two who started working in a sweatshop when she was just a teenager. Despite the hardships, she dreams of a better life for her children. She hopes that her sacrifices will allow her children to break free from the cycle of poverty and lead a life that she could only dream of. Mina's story is not unique. It's echoed by millions of sweatshop workers across Southeast Asia. They're not just workers, they're mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons, each with their own dreams and aspirations. Each day, they wake up and face the grueling reality of their work, fueled by the hope of a better future. In the world of fast fashion, these workers are the unseen cogs in the machine. Their hard work and sacrifices are often overlooked, their stories untold. But they're the ones who pay the real price for our cheap clothes. They're the ones who bear the brunt of our consumerism. As we journey through the world of the worst-paying jobs on earth, it's important to remember the human faces behind these statistics. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the people and their lived experiences. As we can see, the life of a sweatshop worker is far from easy. Next, we journey to the dangerous mines of Africa. In the heart of the continent, the sun rises to reveal a landscape dotted with mines. An essential cog in the global economy, these mines are not worked by burly, hardened adults, they are worked by children. The world of child miners is a universe away from the childhood experiences most of us know and take for granted. The pay these children receive is a pittance, often less than $1 a day. They toil for hours on end, their small hands made for play and learning now forced to wield pickaxes and shovels. Their task? To extract precious minerals that will eventually find their way into our mobile phones, laptops, and other everyday devices. The work is not just meagerly paid, it's hazardous. The children face a daily onslaught of dangers, from the risk of mine collapse to exposure to toxic dust. Safety equipment is a luxury they can't afford, and health and safety regulations are often non-existent. The mines are a ticking time bomb, a catastrophe waiting to happen. Let's consider the experience of Amina, a pseudonym to protect her identity. At just 12 years old, Amina works in a cobalt mine in the Democratic Republic of Congo. She's been doing this back-breaking work since she was 8. Her day begins before dawn and ends long after the sun has set. She earns less than $1 for her hard labor, money that goes to help feed her family of 5. Amina's story is not unique. Thousands of children across Africa share her fate. They are robbed of their childhoods, their education, and their futures. They are trapped in a cycle of poverty and exploitation, with little hope of escape. What's more, the minerals they extract often fuel conflict in their countries. Rebel groups control many of the mines, using the profits to fund their activities. The children are, in essence, caught in the crossfire of a war they didn't start and don't understand. The physical toll on these children is significant, but the psychological impact is just as devastating. They are exposed to trauma and violence, their young minds forced to grapple with realities far beyond their years. The plight of child miners is a stark reminder of the injustices that persist in our world. These children are not just workers. They are victims of a system that values profit over human rights. They are the unseen and unheard casualties of our insatiable demand for technology and progress. As we move forward, it's crucial to remember that progress should not come at the expense of our most vulnerable. Children like Amina deserve a childhood, an education, and a chance to dream. They should not be forced to risk their lives in the depths of a mine for less than $1 a day. The reality of child miners is a harsh reminder of the inequality in our world. Let's now travel to the vast fields of Central America. Imagine waking up at the crack of dawn as the first light of day paints the sky with hues of orange and pink. You grab a quick bite, perhaps a piece of fruit or a slice of bread, before heading out to the fields. This is the daily routine of an agricultural laborer in Central America. Agricultural laborers, often referred to as farm workers, are the backbone of the agricultural industry. They plant, cultivate, and harvest crops, ensuring that the food we eat makes its way from the field to our tables. However, despite their crucial role in our food supply chain, these workers often face incredibly challenging conditions. The pay is meager. Many agricultural laborers earn less than $2 a day, barely enough to cover basic necessities such as food and shelter. This is far below the global poverty line as defined by the World Bank. Despite the physically demanding nature of their work, they often don't receive any additional benefits or protections. Working conditions can be harsh too. Laborers work under the blazing sun for long hours, with limited access to water and sanitation facilities. They're exposed to various health risks, including heat stress and pesticide exposure, and yet they carry on, driven by the need to feed their families and the lack of other employment options. Now let's hear about the personal experiences of these laborers. We've anonymized their stories for their protection. One laborer, let's call him Carlos, shared, "We start working as soon as the sun comes up and don't stop until it sets. Sometimes we don't even have time to eat." Another laborer, we'll name her Maria, said, "We have no choice but to work. If we don't, our children won't eat." These stories are not unique. They are echoed by thousands of agricultural laborers who brave the fields every day, striving to make ends meet while contributing to a vital industry. Yet, there's a glimmer of hope. Organizations around the world are working to improve the conditions and pay of agricultural laborers. They're advocating for fair wages, safer working conditions, and access to basic amenities. This fight for justice and fair treatment is a slow process, but it's a battle worth fighting. Agricultural laborers are more than just workers. They are fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, each with dreams and aspirations of their own. They deserve better. The life of an agricultural laborer is marked by long hours and low wages. But remember, behind every piece of fruit or vegetable on your plate, there's a human story, and it's up to us to ensure that these stories have happy endings. Our journey takes us next to the bustling streets of India. As we delve into our next case study, we find ourselves amidst the hard-working sanitation workers who tend to the cleanliness and hygiene of urban spaces. Their role is indispensable, yet their lives are often overshadowed by the lack of recognition and low wages. Sanitation workers in India, often referred to as Safai Karamcharis, are entrusted with the job of maintaining cleanliness in public areas, disposing of waste and ensuring that sanitation systems function effectively. It's a job that's demanding and often thankless, but it's also a job that's essential for the smooth running of any city. Despite the importance of their role, their wages are dishearteningly low. Many sanitation workers earn less than the minimum wage, struggling to make ends meet with an income that's barely enough to support their families. The pay gap is significant, and it's a stark reminder of the economic inequality that persists in societies across the globe. The working conditions for these individuals are far from ideal. They're exposed to hazardous materials on a daily basis, with inadequate protective gear, if any at all. They work in extreme weather conditions, be it the scorching summer heat or the chilling winter cold. Their job exposes them to health risks, and yet they often lack access to adequate healthcare. But amidst these harsh realities, the spirit of these workers is commendable. They rise with the dawn, ready to face another day of grueling work. Their stories are testament to their resilience and determination. One such story is that of a sanitation worker who, despite his meager earnings, managed to educate his children, instilling in them the importance of hard work and dignity of labor. Another worker, a woman, single-handedly supported her family, working tirelessly to provide for them. These stories, while inspiring, also highlight the dire need for change. It's a call to action for improved wages, better working conditions, and recognition for the crucial role these workers play in society. Sanitation workers are the unsung heroes of our cities. They work behind the scenes, keeping our streets clean and our lives convenient. They're a crucial cog in the wheel of urban life, and it's high time their efforts are acknowledged and rewarded. In a world that's increasingly conscious of cleanliness and hygiene, the role of sanitation workers has never been more important. It's a job that's often overlooked, but without them, our cities would struggle to function effectively. As we conclude this case study, it's important to remember that every job has its worth, every worker their dignity. The sanitation workers, often overlooked, play a crucial role in our society. They deserve our respect, our recognition, and a wage that reflects the importance of their work. What binds these individuals together, you may ask? Well, it's a complex web of shared experiences, a common thread that weaves through the lives of these hard-working individuals. Despite their geographical locations and the nature of their jobs, these workers are united by a set of unfortunate circumstances. Firstly, let's talk about the elephant in the room: low wages. Whether it is a sweatshop worker tirelessly sewing clothes for hours on end, a child miner delving deep into the earth's crust, an agricultural laborer toiling under the scorching sun, or a sanitation worker navigating through piles of waste, the remuneration they receive is dishearteningly low. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but their wages, more often than not, barely meet the basic needs of survival. Then we have the poor working conditions. Inadequate safety measures, long working hours, and a lack of basic amenities are just the tip of the iceberg. From the dusty mines to the searing fields, from the cramped sweatshops to the stinky wastelands, these workers face conditions that most of us would find unimaginable. The lack of opportunities is another thread that binds them. The reality is that for many of these workers, their current job isn't a choice, but a necessity. Limited by their circumstances, they are often stuck in these jobs with little to no chance of improving their situation. And let's not forget about the social stigma that often comes with these jobs. These workers are frequently overlooked and undervalued, their contributions unnoticed or unappreciated by the society at large. So, what's the common thread that connects these diverse workers? It's a shared narrative of struggle, of relentless grind against the odds, of survival in the face of adversity. It's a story of low wages, poor working conditions, limited opportunities, and societal indifference. Despite the differences in their jobs, these workers share a common struggle. But why, in a world so advanced, do these conditions persist? The answer lies not in the individual choices of workers, but in the systemic issues that pervade our global society. We live in an interconnected world, where the threads of globalization weave together economies, industries, and lives. Yet, this interconnectedness often leads to exploitation, with workers in developing nations shouldering the burden of developed nations' demand for cheap labor and products. Globalization fuels a race to the bottom, where countries compete to offer the lowest wages and the laxest regulations, all in the name of attracting foreign investment. This competition traps workers in a cycle of low wages and poor working conditions. It's not just about surviving, it's about nations trying to thrive in a global economy that often values profit over people. But the story doesn't end there. Economic inequality, both within and between nations, further exacerbates the plight of low-wage workers. The wealth gap is widening, with a small elite accumulating vast fortunes, while the majority of workers struggle to make ends meet. This inequality is not just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about opportunities, access to resources, and the ability to live a dignified life. Economic inequality often goes hand in hand with social inequality, where marginalized groups bear the brunt of low-wage work. Women, racial and ethnic minorities, and other marginalized groups are often overrepresented in low-wage jobs, further entrenching social divides and perpetuating cycles of poverty and disadvantage. And then there's the issue of labor rights. Despite the progress made in many parts of the world, many workers still lack basic rights and protections. The right to organize and bargain collectively, the right to a safe and healthy workplace, the right to fair wages. These are often seen as luxuries, not necessities. Without these rights, workers are left vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. These systemic issues, globalization, economic inequality, social inequality, and lack of labor rights, all contribute to the persistence of low-wage jobs. They form a web of interconnected challenges that can't be solved in isolation. Tackling these issues requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of exploitation and inequality. Yet, while these challenges may seem insurmountable, we should not lose hope. Change is possible. By raising awareness, advocating for labor rights, and pushing for fair trade and responsible business practices, we can help to create a world where all workers are valued and treated with dignity. But let's not forget, this change begins with us. With every product we buy, every investment we make, and every voice we raise in support of workers' rights, we can make a difference. And that's a powerful thing. These systemic issues trap workers in a cycle of poverty. But together, we can break this cycle. We can create a world where work is not just about survival, but about thriving. A world where every worker is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. So what can we do about these worse-paying jobs? It's a question that's been echoing in our minds since we began this exploration, and it's time we turned our attention to potential solutions. The path may be fraught with challenges, but it's a journey we must embark on for the sake of justice, equality, and the dignity of every worker on this planet. First and foremost, we must advocate for labor rights, the right to fair wages, to safe working conditions, and to be free from exploitation. These are not privileges, they are fundamental human rights, yet for many, they remain an elusive dream. We must raise our voices, both as individuals and as a collective, to demand these rights for every worker, everywhere. Whether it's through peaceful protests, lobbying for stronger laws, or supporting organizations that fight for labor rights, each of us has a role to play. Supporting fair trade is another powerful way to make a difference. Fair trade is a movement that promotes equitable trade relationships, ensuring that producers in developing countries receive a fair price for their goods. By choosing to buy fair trade products, we can help provide better wages and working conditions for workers in some of the world's worst-paying jobs. It's a small change in our shopping habits that can have a significant impact. Raising awareness is also a crucial part of the solution. The harsh reality is that many people are simply unaware of the conditions that workers in the worst-paying jobs have to endure. By sharing what we've learned, by starting conversations, and by challenging the status quo, we can help to bring these issues into the light. Social media, blogs, podcasts, documentaries, these are all platforms that can be used to spread the word and challenge the norms. Education, too, is a key weapon in our arsenal. By ensuring access to quality education for all, we can provide children and adults alike with the skills they need to escape the cycle of poverty and exploitation. Education opens doors, and by supporting initiatives that promote education, particularly in underprivileged areas, we can help to create a brighter future for those trapped in the worst-paying jobs. But let's not forget the power of empathy. It's easy to feel detached from the plight of workers half a world away, but we must remember that they, too, are people. They have dreams, hopes, and fears just like us. They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, not exploited for their labor. By extending our empathy and compassion to these workers, we can help to create a world where every job is rewarded with a fair wage and safe working conditions. As we reflect on the stories we've heard today, let's not allow them to be forgotten. Let's carry them with us. Let them fuel our desire for change, and let them remind us of the work that still needs to be done. The road to a more equitable world may be long, but every step we take brings us closer to our goal. While the problem is complex, every step we take towards a more equitable world counts. Let's step forward together.